game's Trivia Deal, and it's the first ever trivia roguelike game. So basically, at this stage, I don't have the full sort of story behind it, but essentially you have your intelligence, which is kind of like your health, and you go through a range of challenges. So there's a board with, say, 20 cards, and you'll have to go through each column, completing the columns with the trivia questions. If you answer correctly, then you'll gain health. If you answer incorrectly, you'll lose. And then there's a range of what I call like lifeline abilities, like a 50-50, a slow time, increase like score multipliers, all those sorts of things that you can put on the cards. So if you're correct, you'll get to keep those. If you're wrong, you'll lose them. And then there's relics and things like that as well. So they'll sit with you for the full run. And then as you progress, you'll get through harder and harder levels. There'll be boss levels as well. So there's sort of different difficulty questions. So that's called the Rainbow Reaper. So they're pretty tough questions. And unless you've seen them before, there's a big chance you'll struggle with them. So there'll be particular abilities that you'll be able to get for those specific questions. So it's kind of the roguelike in terms of going through the increasing difficulty, having the shop in between and rewards and everything like that. I'd probably say it's a bit more akin to something like Balatro than it is, say, Slay the Spire, Monster Train, something like that. Yeah, so, well, originally I had a prototype. It was called Rogue Trivia, and it's, during this time I was playing games like Slay the Spire, Monster Train, Faster Than Light, all of that, and just really loved that concept. And I thought it'd be great to merge, trivia with a roguelike. So I had this prototype where you had to fight different like alien enemies. And so you'd have much more traditional cards, mana, everything like that. And you'd have to battle the enemy. They'd ask trivia questions. If you got it, correct, you'd damage them. If not, then, they'd damage you, those sorts of things. And it was okay. It was a bit of fun, but realistically, it was kind of lacking on the roguelike side and would have required a lot of time and effort into sort of, this whole character thing. And then it's really not heroing the trivia, which is what I actually wanted to do. So I pretty much scrapped that. And then I thought, all right, I need to go a bit simpler here because this is getting really complex. So I went towards more like a solitaire structure. So that's where the whole card columns came in. And I thought, I'll just have a simple board of card columns, and I'll have, as you get things correct, you get tokens, and you'll be able to get these little abilities and stuff that you can use to play on the board. And then at the end of the round, you'd have your score, and it's all about getting the high score. And that was pretty much it. And I put up a demo of that originally on Itch, got some good feedback there. And then eventually I thought, I'm going to put this up on Steam. So had it up there as a demo. I had Alexa pick it up. So he put it on his YouTube and got a heap of wish lists from that and some really good feedback, and just so many comments there of people saying, what they love about it, and, what sort of questions they want. Had people who wanted like crocheting and knitting. Not sure if they were totally serious. It's just funny, all the different things that people are into. I got some pretty harsh feedback on some questions that, people like gamers, they're very, very specific about what's correct. And so, I got some wrong, and that was pretty funny. But it's just all that sort of talk, and seeing streamers use it was really cool. And so Alexa, for his post, he actually wrote first ever trivia roguelike. And that kind of sat with me a bit because I thought this really is the category at the moment. Like, this is the big genre on Steam. That sort of roguelike deck builder is a big category, and that sort of casual board game is very niche. And I thought I really need to bring back this roguelike element, because I'm not going to hit enough of the market on Steam if I just stick with this casual type game. So that's where I sort of kept working on the concept and thought, all right, well, and it was kind of Balatro that inspired me, because they don't have, enemy characters, and they don't necessarily have that procedural where you choose your direction. It's more like the small blind, big blind, and then the bosses and everything like that. And I thought, well, that could kind of work in that sort of a similar flow. So yeah, then I got started on what was going to be a pretty simple casual game to the massive scope that it is now, which is it's a good and a bad thing. I think when you haven't released many games, you're definitely going to take on more than you should. And a lot of videos, a lot of the things I've watched suggest just try and get something out the door. But I'm probably at the point now where if I was to pause this and try and get something out quickly, then I would lose too much progress and be hard to come back to. So I'm kind of all in on this now, and I'm trying to just restrict the scope to get something released next year. There was a couple of games that inspired me in terms of how the board is displayed and the slight angle that it's sort of put on as well, which someone complained about. There's a bit of inspiration in terms of it's a little bit more gritty than Stacklands in terms of the style, and that's where the sort of rough edges on the card and everything came from. But like my original background, I did graphic design for a while, and then I did a bit of web design as well. And then I moved pretty much straight into, managing teams and those sorts of things. And I think the one thing I've learned is you've got to always, if you are that, driven creatively, you've got to have that outlet. You can't just leave that behind. And that was a key thing that game development's, where that's come from, is I love putting my creative energy into something. So it's cool working on projects for clients and managing teams to see those things come through, but you still want to, be on the tools and do some things yourself. And so having that sort of design element is definitely my most enjoyed part. It's sort of often the most challenging. The developer side, I was never an amazing coder or anything like that, but there's tutorials out there, there's docs everywhere, and you can just pick stuff up as you go. So that's been really enjoyable. And also music production. I used to be in a band back in the day. That was, kind of another lifetime now, playing, gigs around Melbourne, and got to the point of doing an EP, and then, kids and everything else comes along, and that sort of gets put to the side. But, the music that's in there, I've produced myself, and that's just, whether that'll stay or whether I'll get someone else, I don't know, but it's at least been a really good creative outlet. And that's probably the thing that has inspired me, is that there's always something to sort of jump between. When you're a solo dev, there's no shortage of things to do, and whatever I'm feeling like at the time, I'll kind of pick up. It's like I feel like getting deep into the code, I'll do that. If I just feel like doing some design, and I'll go for that, maybe some marketing stuff as well. So yeah, very much just enjoying that process. It's probably 2.5 years ago that I would have started on the first initial prototype that I was talking about before. So I probably spent, it would have been 3 or 4 months on that. And then the next iteration would be, 6 months on that part. And then this last part is about a year. So through that process, I'm still learning the best way to code and structure and everything like that. So it's been really challenging in terms of, I'd say the hardest thing is managing your scope, is actually committing to it and, knowing that, all right, this is what I'm going to deliver. This is what I'm actually going to launch with. Knowing when it's a prototype and knowing when this is the final thing that I'm going ahead with, because with my love of design, it's also the problem that you jump in too early and start designing things that, should really still be a grey box prototype, and you're already making it its final form and putting animations and all those sorts of things in. And I've definitely learned through that process that it's just so much harder to unpack that later if you haven't gone in the right direction. So it's been, it's just been a learning process through the whole process. But yeah, I'd say definitely the most enjoyable part of the whole, the development journey has been sharing it with people and seeing how people actually, when they play it, you'll see the bugs that you missed, obviously, but you'll see the fun in the game that you're not necessarily always seeing, and that's the best part. And like I said before with the streamers, that was one bit of feedback that a lot of people have said, is they want a streamer mode where there's no countdown timer on the cards. So I will definitely put that in, but obviously if you think about it with trivia, it's pretty easy to just switch to another browser and load up Google and write in the question and put in the answer. So that's the purpose of the actual countdown timer. And I put it at 10 seconds as a default, but someone could be pretty quick and still bypass that. But yeah, the idea is to put in a streamer mode where it won't have the achievements and leaderboards necessarily, or maybe a different type of leaderboard, because I've got to account for that fact that I don't want it to just be if people can bypass that. But yeah, I think that's the most exciting part, is seeing people enjoy it. And I guess I've always wanted that entertainment part in my life of something I can give to people, and yeah, I love that. So at this stage, I've got 2,000 trivia questions, so I need another 1,000 minimum, and I've worked out that'll be a really decent amount of playtime, even if you're fast at answering them. So I've got to get a heap of questions done. I've got to get them all checked and verified so people don't get upset. And then I've got to complete the relics, so that when you're playing a card, it's got to check the lifelines and the relics and everything. So that whole system is probably one of the more complex ones. And then it's all that, Steam integration stuff. So achievements and all those things, which I haven't done before. So I don't know how long it's going to take, but hopefully it won't be too difficult. So hopefully Q1, Q2, 2025 is the plan at this point.
What's your go-to caffeinated beverage when working on the game, if you've got one?
Oh, I know this is always a question that goes for you guys. I'm going to be really unpopular here. I gave up coffee like 4 months ago or something like that. So I've been doing all of this without coffee. If anything, I'd probably say green tea.